Right, hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Now today we're going to talk about my Focus RS Mk1 and 5 things that I dislike about this car. These are no particular order, by the way. Number 1 on the list is parts for this car. Now 20 years ago, when this car was new, parts for this car were expensive back then, so it's what I would call the RS tax. Now anyone who owns a Cosworth or an RS Turbo knows that they are standard parts but with RS tax. Or what Ford do is that they adapt a part for the standard car and make it for the RS, and obviously then it becomes more expensive. Now 20 years later, if you imagine trying to get parts for this car, it's almost not impossible, but it comes with a heavy price tag. Now for example, if you want some new headlights, I think I've seen a set sell for about 500 quid. If you want new RS mats, just floor mats, I think they're going for around anywhere between 100 to 500 pounds depending on the time of the year and obviously what they're selling for on eBay. I've noticed the same with the Fiesta as well actually. The Fiesta's got quite a few parts that are quite expensive still, like an exhaust on there, you know, you're looking cheap ones 250 second hand, brand new 350, 400 quid for like an old Fiesta ST 150. I mean, it's ridiculous. The exhaust on this was about 300 quid when I bought the car, and I don't know what they're going for now. I'll have a little look and put a link up there for you, but you're probably looking around about 500 quid for a bloody exhaust. So if you are looking to buy one of these, then just bear that in mind, that parts nowadays obviously are 20 years old. You're not really going to get anything brand new anymore, and if you do, it's just going to cost you an arm and a leg to buy it. So now to number 2, and probably the thing I dislike the most about this car, front wheel drive. Now this was based on the World Rally car back in 1999, and that was obviously a 4-wheel drive car. This, however, they said, right, let's just give it front wheel drive. For whatever reason, please don't ask me why, because I don't know. They've done this on the Mk1 and the Mk2 Focus RS. Now the Mk3, as you know, or if you've got one, comes with 4-wheel drive, and it comes with race mode, and it comes with drift mode. So obviously over the years they've kind of, so I think it was Ken Block that worked with them on the Mk3 Focus RS and said, you know, this needs 4-wheel drive and it needs like a drift mode. Obviously front wheel drive, still a fun car to drive, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm trying to put a positive on a negative spin. So being front wheel drive, it's not sort of too bad, but it could have done with being 4-wheel drive. However, with front wheel drive, what you get on this car is torque steer. So when you put your foot down in the car and you hold it in a straight line, basically the car will go in a straight line and then all of a sudden start going left or right, depending on which way it wants to pull you. It does have a limited slip diff, a Quaife limited slip diff it is, and you know, it does work pretty well. So when it's wet out and you've got some dodgy tyres on, you're basically going to end up in the sidings. I've never had any problems with it. Obviously I've had quite a lot of torque steer on it. I've had a bit of lift off oversteer on it, which is not so much fun. I would rather it was 4-wheel drive, however being front wheel drive, it's not the end of the world. So on to number 3. Now in my 5 things that I like about the Focus, I mentioned about the car design, obviously that is something I like. However, it's also a negative as well, so let me show you what I mean. I did mention in that video that basically they spent a lot of money, I think, on the front of this car, designing it all, putting in the bucket seats, etc. And then when it got to the rear of the car, they run out of money. So you can see what I mean here with the rear of the car. It basically just looks, I don't know, just looks really sort of plain. And so inside the car, one thing they did, so in this car you do not get you get a boost gauge, but you don't get a water temperature gauge. You just get a warning light pop up when the water's basically run out, which I've had on a number of occasions. The boost gauge is pretty sort of basic, so I put in this Ford Racing boost gauge just so it looks a little bit better as opposed to the standard one that you get in the car, which always goes to 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 all the time. Pretty standard. All the plastics pretty cheap and nasty. They've obviously spent a bit of money on this carbon fibre insert here, which is nice, and the start button obviously, which is a nice little thing, and then your number there, which got 118. But everything else is pretty much out of a Mk1 Focus. You know, it's nothing exciting. The vents, you know, nothing changed there. I've changed this from a boost controller. Coin tray, you know, just silly little things. You get a coin tray there, you get the standard, you get uprated pedals I guess, but you just end up slipping on those. Yeah, the inside of the car and these seats, now they're not too bad. The thing I don't like is obviously the bobbling here on the Alcantara. The leather sort of cracks, and like, you know, with most cars it does that anyway. But one of the things here, from my understanding, these are a 2-part design. So if you was to put harnesses in here, do not do it. If you've got a Mk1 Focus RS, do not put harnesses on these standard seats, because I believe from about here they are a 2-piece seat. So if you was to put harnesses in here and have an accident, basically this seat would do that. It would just basically come crashing down and probably break your neck or something. So whatever you do, don't put harnesses in these. They're not built for it, which is what I mean. You know, Ford probably spent quite a bit of money with Sparco designing these, but can't put harnesses in it, and it's a rally car, so it's just a bit weird really. It's quite a generic looking car, and the blue is, you know, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of this blue. I think if it's black leather that'd look pretty decent, but overall not sort of too bad. So that's number 3 on my list. Right, number 4 on the list, running costs. Now In the current climate, to fill this car up cost me between anywhere of £70 to £80 worth of super unleaded. So I always put the super unleaded in because obviously the way the car's been mapped. Now tax I thought was a lot cheaper, but it's actually £380 for the year on one of these cars. So obviously something to look out for if it's a car that you want to buy. 400 quid is quite a lot of money just to tax a car. Insurance for me is pretty cheap because it's on a limited mileage policy. So I only can do 3,000 miles in a year, and I'm currently doing about 300 in a year, I reckon, if that. That obviously brings the price of the insurance down for myself and me being a bit older, but you know, there are videos out there on YouTube that tell you how to get cheap insurance. I don't know how you can actually get cheap insurance. The only way I know about getting cheap insurance is to build up your no claims bonus, don't have a crash, and then basically your insurance gets a little bit cheaper each year. And also don't be fooled by when you get 21 that it goes lower, because it doesn't. Tyres on this, you know, they're not that expensive. You're probably looking at around about, I suppose you can get it for £80 a corner, or anywhere upwards to £200 a corner, depending on what you want to get. So the running costs on these are quite expensive. Just be warned of that if it's something you want to do and get. However, I mean, just look at it, it's a great car. So if you have got the money and you're willing to invest a little bit of money and time and effort into it, do yourself a favour, get one of these because they're a fantastic little car. So I'm actually struggling to find a fifth point on this car that I don't like. So with this car, I would say one of the other things I don't like about it, I know it's 20 years old, but when it came out of the factory, it was 212 horsepower. Now for a 2-litre turbo to have 212 horsepower 20 years ago was pretty good. You know, it was one of the good cars at the time. So you've got the Fiesta ST Mark 8. Now that's a 1.5 3-cylinder turbo car, and that's pushing out 197 horsepower. So that'll give a standard one of these a good run for its money straight out of the box. So I know there's 20 years of difference in terms of engineering and manufacturing, but you know, that's probably the only thing I would say is that these days, if you do have a standard one of these and you come up against like a little Mark 8 Fiesta ST and you want to give it a little race, then you're probably going to get embarrassed. So you do need to spend the money, again, obviously running costs, you need to spend the money to get these things modified. Once they're modified over 300 horsepower and 350, 400 horsepower, you know, you're laughing. It's a pretty good car to have. I've had a race with someone on the track in an M3, he knows who he is, and I sort of wiped the floor with him. And you know, that car was, I think, pushing out 300, is it? 300 horsepower, 400 horsepower maybe, I'm not sure on the M3s, but yeah, it was a pretty good race and we really enjoyed ourselves. So also another thing, if you are looking to get one of these and you want to get it to, you know, 400-500 horsepower, don't forget all of that's going to go through your front wheels, so you're going to have quite a lot of trouble sort of keeping it in a straight line. When it comes to track days, you'll probably be spinning out quite a bit, and I mean, I've never driven one with 500 horsepower. I can imagine that it's pretty decent to drive, however, not something that I would probably want myself from this car. 300 horsepower, happy days. Right, so if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching the video. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, and also give it a thumbs up if you liked it, give it a thumbs down if you disliked it. Let me know in the comments what you did like, what you didn't like, etc, etc. If you do own one of these, obviously let me know in the comments things that you dislike about the car, because obviously everyone's got different opinions. I am actually going to try and get this car out on the road as well, because it's just been bugging me. I think it's run out of an MOT, so it needs to go and get a new one, but it's been bugging me that I haven't been driving this car. So I'm going to take this car out to a few meets, do a few point of view videos for you guys. I'll try and get to a few shows as well this year. So my oldest now, he's actually really enjoying cars, so I think he'll want to come to a few. My wife enjoys the shows as well, and obviously the little one, he's got no choice, he's only 8 months, so he's going to have no choice and he's coming anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.